Hello and welcome to a VSA Capital video with me, Ollie O'Donnell, and today I'm delighted to welcome back Ian Chakos, Executive Chairman of ASX listed ADX Energy, a European E&P play. Ian, since we last spoke, it's not been a straightforward few months for ADX on your exploration side, but your profitable production continues to grow, and you've got a number of new exploration opportunities, which we're going to talk about today. So thanks very much for joining us, and looking forward to hearing the latest.
Thanks, Ollie. It's a pleasure to be here. Obviously the Welchau discovery well is frustrating us from the point of view of testing results to date, but also some contesting from environmental groups. We hope to get that sorted out in the next month or so, and hopefully get back to testing. It's very comforting for us that we feel like we've actually discovered quite a substantial play. So there's a lot more going on there, but the delays are frustrating. In between time, we're really focusing on building our cash flow. First of all, we're doing it with our existing oil. So we managed to get our production rate back up from around 250 barrels a day to over 300 barrels a day. We're currently producing at around 310 barrels a day, which is important. But now we're also focusing on a very low risk shallow gas play, and I say now, but this is something actually we've been developing over the last 2 years, and it's a combination of seismic processing and also AI, where we've identified a play within our own acreage that's been around for over 20 years and has been very successful. Over 200 BCF of gas has been discovered in this play, but at the time no one really knew why it was there. Now we understand why it's there, and we've been able to calibrate the seismic with existing discoveries and prospects within our acreage, which make us feel we've got something that we can drill that's very low risk. It's in the central part of the Upper Austrian acreage position, so it's very close to pipelines. So it kind of ticks the boxes for us: cheap to drill, quick to commercialize, and also what we're trying to do for obvious reasons in Europe is try to increase our gas production as quickly as we can.
Yeah, and just to go back to that existing production, I think you're profitable on the sort of P&L front. It covers your G&A and means that your balance sheet is actually still in pretty good shape.
Yeah, look, the goal there is obviously, we're quite different to other companies in that we operate all our assets, and I guess what we try to do is generate opportunities. A lot of the funding that we get actually comes from farm outs. We've been able to farm out 3 wells in the last 2 years that we've drilled, so that's important. But obviously, to be able to originate those opportunities, you need a team of people who can, doing the G&G and engineering work to be able to come up with new plays, new ideas, new prospects to drill. So that continuity of cash flow is very important, and it's something we want to build on. Unfortunately, we don't have enough cash flow that can necessarily fund new wells. So usually new wells are funded as a combination of equity and farm outs.
Yeah, and these new shallow prospects, they look pretty interesting, described as low risk and shallow. You own, I think, 100% of some of the acreage and share some of it with your partner M&D. But although you said you've been working on this for 2 years, it's only through a recent licensing change that brings the opportunity to the fore now. So can you give us a bit of a sense of how these assets fit in geographically to your existing claims and the ownership structure at the moment?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, basically, we've got 1,000 square kilometres of exploration acreage, and within that acreage in Upper Austria, Also, Anshoff is within that acreage, which is obviously now a production asset. Yeah, we've done a farm out in one of, so that's spread across 2 blocks of around 500 square kilometres each. One of the nice things about the permitting regime in Austria is we can actually vary the shape of our acreage as long as it's contiguous. So we still have 1,000 kilometres of acreage, but we vary the shape to increase more of this play. And the reason we haven't talked a lot about it was because obviously we wanted to keep it under wraps until we've been able to basically bring in about 10 new prospects. So what we intend to do is explore in areas, in cluster areas where we're looking to put together maybe sort of 15 to 20 BCF amongst, say, 4 or 5 prospects. We'll drill the biggest, lowest risk one first, and then we can tie in the other ones to it quite economically. So it does 2 things. Obviously, it gives you a better risk-reward profile. You're going for something that can be commercialized immediately. But then these things tend to produce at relatively high rates. So once you've got your infrastructure in, then you want to back it up with more reserves. So that's the strategy. We've got our first cluster that we talk about, which is around the Goldbrunn well in our ADX AT2 acreage. But then there's 2 other that we're looking to put that together with 2 other prospects that we share with M&D. And ideally, because these things are pretty quick to drill, one of the biggest costs of a well, about 30 or 40% of it is mob demob. So if we can put sort of 2 or 3 of these together, we significantly improve our drilling costs and probably get them down, from around sort of 1.8 million euros down to sort of maybe 1.5 million euros, which and all of that helps. But you look, they are low risk. As I've said, we've calibrated our seismic against existing discoveries, and we've got a very good understanding because we've got 3,500 square kilometres of 3D data that we have access to, plus all the well data and the production data. So we're pretty privileged in the data access that we have. So some of these things that will be around 80%, anywhere between sort of 70 to 80% chance of success, which is something which is more in the appraisal category than exploration.
Mm. And what's the sort of time frame of the history of discovery in this area, and how are you using AI to advance your development? Because there's certainly on the mining side, there are a couple of companies that have marketed themselves as using AI to de-risk their exploration and have achieved multi-billion-dollar valuations through that alone. So can you be the next company to do that? Because I don't think anyone's done that in oil and gas yet.
Yeah, look, we don't want to try and overplay it, but what we do have is obviously extensive acreage, and what we're doing is chasing certain attributes. So the way we're using AI is to basically, I guess, identify where those attributes exist and then utilize AI to see where they can be replicated. So it's just, gives us a bit of an acceleration in basically identifying areas where you have the same, if you like, attributes. Now, once you've identified them, you still have to do the work, obviously, and map each of these things out properly and make sure that you've got all the elements of what you need to make it work. But quite often, I mean, it's pretty common offshore, particularly with gas, where, once you calibrate your seismic to a certain response and you've got a particular play, then your success rate goes up very markedly. And because here we're operating in very young, if you like, sediments, that's possible here. It's not quite so possible when you get into areas where, the sediments are disturbed with overthrust and things like that, which we do tend to have, in other areas of our acreage. So, yeah, that's really where AI has come in. It's just to be able to do our first pass over a very large area and then determine where we need to focus for our detailed mapping and prospect generation.
Mm. And so what work has historically been done on the sort of top prospects that you've identified?
Well, so far we've generated in ADX 100% areas. We've generated 4 prospects that are drill ready, and then previously, when we actually started this work, and it was part of our, if you like, our sell to M&D, was 2 prospects that are included in shared acreage with M&D. So I think generally what we're trying to focus on is low in the immediate term is low risk, quick return, rapid pathway to cash flow. Right now, we think it's really important that we further, develop our balance sheet. Now, what we are doing in areas where they're deeper plays, they're much bigger, and we're looking at things that, like Welchau, which really need more work. We've developed another prospect that's a follow-up to Welchau, but that's going to require, that's probably got another 1.5 year lead time. Then we've got, within our acreage, we've got some deeper prospects, which have got, if you like, impacted by overthrust. So what we've had to do is get into a program of pre-stacked time migration and pre-stacked depth migration. So we're reprocessing 3D seismic, which again will give us, if you like, new prospects that we think will have greater confidence in, which will probably be drillable in about 12 to 18 months. So right now we're really focused on things that we can do quickly. But it's not just being quick. I think if we can we establish this play and we get some reward for it. Right now we see about 7 other prospects over and above what we've already talked about that we're trying. We're looking to finalise, and then so ideally we drill 3 prospects commencing Q4 2025, Q1 2026, and then have, if you like, another potential cluster of prospects that we can drill after that.
Excellent. And you're running a farm out process at the moment to help fund that.
Yeah, look, I mean, obviously these things are relatively cheap to drill, so obviously we can either look at equity or farm out. If we get the terms we like, then we would farm out. If not, we would consider raising funds to do it as well. So, but yes, we've started the process. We're out there. We've got a number of interested parties, and we'll see where that takes us.
Excellent.
But right now, I mean, we've commenced permitting. Typically, where we are in this core area, it takes 4 to 6 months. We've already got landowner agreements for 2 or 3 of these prospects. Now we're doing the permitting, but the permitting involves actually identifying the rig you want to drill with. We're also looking at potentially using smaller rigs. So it may be that we actually permit with 2 different rigs, depending on the outcome of negotiations with drilling operators to try and get, if you like, an optimal solution.
Yeah, excellent. And then looking to the longer term prospects, can you give us a bit of an update on the technical process at Welchau and what you're doing now following the result, and then also the sort of permitting side of things as well?
Yeah, look, in terms of Welchau, we're still stuck in this core process. We've obviously we tested the lower zone, which gave us some disappointing results. Obviously, we produced water from the bottom of the section where we got the majority of the water. So we could go back and also test higher up in the section. What we've done is go to the top of the highest, if you like, intersection, and we're looking to test that. That's been opened up, but we haven't been able to sample it because of that, if you like, court decision. And look, it was just actually a decision in the High Court, which meant that the existing permits that were provided to us by the Environmental Authority and the Drilling Authority were being contested. Previously, you could actually go ahead and let until such time as an objection had actually been awarded. In this case, the High Court determined that you can't go ahead until the objection has been heard. So we're caught up in that process. So the next thing we'll do is go in, sample, see where we're at, see what we do in if you like the existing well and in existing zones that have been intersected. In between time, with the new data, we've re-looked at our seismic, we've re-looked at our, if you like, our tectonic model, and we also are seeing duplexing, which means that you're basically folding over the same sediments, and we can see a similar sort of build-up of, if you like, sealing sediments and reservoir sediments about 700 to 1,000 meters below us. So obviously testing would be number one. The next thing we consider is deepening to the well to some deeper structures, which are probably a similar depth to the original Mollin discovery. So, look, I think what we do expect, the deeper we go into the section, the more likely are we to get good sealing members. One of the biggest risks with Welchau all along has been, seal, because it's a relatively shallow structure. So we consider we continue to evaluate that. We've also developed a new prospect, which is further to the north of Welchau, probably a simpler structure, similar depth, probably even shallower, and that's called the Rosberg prospect that also is a potential follow-up. But quite clearly, we're in an area where there's big structuring. There's been multiple sources of migration, both oil and gas. So it's something we want to continue to pursue, but it also will be look at things like potential further seismic, different ways of drilling slim hole wells, which gets the cost down, etc. So, but it's something that I don't think we're going to crack in 6 months. It's probably going to be another 12 to 18 months. Alongside that, we've got Italy, which we had announced that we've had an offshore permit in the Sicily Channel offered to us. We've accepted the offer, and we expect the final permit to be provided to us probably in the beginning of July. We're just going through some final documentation, more around the normal things around money laundering and all of that sort of stuff. All the, if you like, all the formal ministry work has all been done, from both environmental and port perspective. They usually have environmental authority, the port authority, and also the Navy look at anything that's offshore. So we've got through all of that, and now we're just really looking at the final tick off that. So that's exciting for us because right next to us, ENI announced the development of a field called Cassiope that's in production now as of August last year, very similar to sediments to what we're looking at. So the history of this is we got into this actually for oil. It was a brownfields oil project that we saw another 20, 30 million barrels in. That's part of the deeper section, the deeper reefs. But above that, there was also, gas seen in some of the shallower section. And we've seen evidence of that in a number of wells. We've seen, amplitude effects on 2D seismic. There's a very good 2D data set. So what it means is because ENI was still active in this area up until about 2014, because they would continue to pursue the oil. And basically what the ministry said is, you can pursue the gas, but you can't pursue the oil. But look, we're quite happy with that because, again, the gas is relatively shallow. We're close to infrastructure. We're close, about 50 kilometres away from a field called the Liponi field, which is already tied into infrastructure, which is just onshore. Again, very similar sediments. So it's something that, if we're successful, could be, developed with subsea completions tied back to shore, which obviously brings down your costs quite substantially. So next steps, get the acreage early July, buy more of the existing 2D seismic, review, if you like, our resource estimations, and then look at whether we have something that we would drill on 2D or whether we move to acquiring 3D.
Excellent. Ian, thank you once again for joining us for the update, and sounds like there's plenty of catalysts to come in the next few months, so we'll look out for those and look forward to our next update. Thank you.
Thank you, Ollie. Yeah, we're keeping busy.